I do suffer and did suffer from moderate to severe, I would even call it critical constipation, kind of situation when you basically are better to go to the emergency room. I also want to give a few tips, especially about these two conditions, moderate and severe constipation. I'll explain what I mean by this. But also just be aware that this video will contain some anatomical description. So it's not gross, but I have to point to a few things in there. I just first start by saying that my condition about this problem is strongly related to two factors. The first one is body dehydration, chronic through several years, a long-term body dehydration, which is due to a lung condition causing the body to dehydrate. The lungs lose too much humidity. The second problem is I have a kidney disease. I don't know what exactly it is because the exam did turn fine, but it clearly is a problem. For instance, whenever I eat the tiniest amounts of salt, could be just a slice of salami, like a European salami, which is very salted, but only a slice, or anything with sugar, and that includes even fruits, but really small amounts. Also anything with some acidity like C vitamin, and there are many other things, including too much iron or other things, other foods. I start urinating several hours after that food. I start to urinating a lot, and this urination has a strong urge to urinate, and it happens when it starts about every hour or so for several hours. So obviously this also dehydrates the body. And one other thing that I would add about besides these two is that I also believe having the beginning of diabetes. Diabetes will explain for urination from sugar in blood, but not for the other ingredients that I did mention here. So just giving you the context. So now for the constipation itself, I would say that first I started having problem years ago when I was eating at some point quite a bit of ice cream. And from that moment on, anything, and I mean anything with cream, would just cause severe constipation. Not severe, but this problem. However, I just skipped the ice cream at some point, but I started to have this constipation, moderate to severe, in the past several years. It's being chronic. And at first, I would say most of this period has been moderate constipation, which means very rare stools. I would say perhaps somewhere, I would say maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks without stools sometimes. And I do eat, so I do eat food. I don't eat a lot of variation, but I do eat food. And also, just to prevent this, I also drink water through the day, just to compensate for that body dehydration and urination. But I also eat food with cabbage. So I eat bread, mostly bread and cabbage. And the cabbage part, it's just like if you have some sort of lettuce, but more juicier, has a lot of water. So I eat these two together for my meal, bread. And it's like a pita bread if you want, bread, and I just really chew along with this cabbage. I can tell you I eat a lot of cabbage. I prefer Napa cabbage, which is a big cabbage. It's fairly heavy. Could be
Hello, Moto.
Sorry. Could be 3 pounds or so heavy, and I would eat one of those in 2 or 3 days, about 3 days perhaps, a lot of this. And this but this does not take away that moderate constipation. But if I don't eat this cabbage, then I will get into problems, serious problems. So I'm just sharing with you two tips, two foods. One that did aggravate the constipation. That would be anything with cream, but it's not just that. Obviously, could be other things. And one food that helps with this. Before I get to severe, I had an episode of not just severe constipation, but actually blockage. I'll explain this in a moment. I just want to say that to give you a tip, and I was saying about describing some anatomical parts. This is one section about this. So I describe moderate constipation when you go to the toilet maybe every week or every 2 weeks or so. But when you go to the toilet, it doesn't come out that difficult, right? So it's the problem mainly here is going to be that the food does not advance fast enough in your intestine, or what the food becomes, the stool basically. So it's a slow down, if you want, passage through the intestine. So that's why it's this delay from when you go to the toilet. But once on the toilet, it is not easy, but it's not that difficult. This is what I call moderate constipation. And by the way, I'm not sure if you can see it on my face, but I can tell you that moderate constipation, and even more so severe or even blockage, this, at least on my body, caused me to lose a lot of weight. I don't have numbers in pounds. I'm more used to kilos. So just go on Google and search conversion from kilos to pounds. Usually I'm 6 feet tall. I'm fairly skinny to start with. I'm usually sitting at around 73, 75 kilos. And with this constipation, and I had an episode of blockage in the past 2 months or so, I went down to 63 kilos. So 10 kilos out of 70 something. It's a lot of weight loss. Why? Because if the food doesn't advance properly in the intestine, that's where the food extraction nutrients happen. The stomach does, basically, if you want, prepare the food for the nutrient extraction, but the nutrient part, where the nutrients pass from food to the blood and then to the rest of the body, happens in the intestine. And the fact that the food does not advance properly, also the fact that this is actually caused by, in my case, or by dehydration. That means that the intestine is not humid enough. So if the lumen, that's the intestine, inside the intestine, is not humid enough, the food does not transfer, the nutrients don't transfer properly from the food to blood, which is on the intestine vessels. So this body dehydration is what's causing food to slow down and the constipation, but also it's reducing food, or if you want, nutrient absorption by the body through your blood, and this causes weight loss potentially. Yes, I was saying that when this moderate constipation happens, one tip, if you want, I think it's useful. It's not gross per se, but you need to be careful with your hands. And anyway, you wash your hands at the end. Is that, if you imagine, would be easier with a picture, but I don't want to start editing this video. So sorry for the gross words, but so if you imagine your rectum would be here, let's just say, and if you touch your spine, where you just remove your pants, touch your spine, start from top to bottom, you will feel at some point the end of your spine is actually, I think it's coccyx scaled, it's last 2-3 tiny vertebrae, and it's fairly flexible. That's the end of the spine, and you can feel it through your skin. So basically, anatomically speaking, the spine goes to a point, then you have maybe a distance of about 2 inches, and then you have your, sorry for this, rectum. So this is end of the spine, this is your rectum. In between these two, there is a skin, if you want, normally. And when you are on your toilet and you have problems, getting the things to come out, I suggest you just put some paper towel and use a piece of paper towel, just toilet paper, and put it against your fingers, put your fingers against the skin in between this kind of gap, end of the spine and rectum, and try to press gently on this portion of skin. Just press a little bit, and actually you are going to feel your intestine. It's basically where the stool is trying to come out. You are going to feel basically the stool, which is probably fairly hardened at that point. You are just going to feel it and just press gently while you gently force it with your body. You have your contractions to to make it come out. So also push gently with your fingers at that portion of what you feel on the intestine. And this is kind of redirecting, if you want, the stool more towards the rectum, because the stool is actually fairly large inside. It's not, if you want, the stool sits in sort of a bag, which is larger, quite larger than the rectum. So that's the whole problem, is squeezing the stool and getting through the rectum and pushing this way with your fingers. Again, you don't push on the rectum itself. You push in between the end of the spine and the rectum. You kind of push the stool from the intestine more to align it somehow towards the rectum. You will notice what I mean when you try this. This helps me a lot when I have this medium constipation. But again, this medium constipation, which I call this way, is when the stool is not too hardened. So that's when this works. Now let me just go for the more severe and critical constipation, describe it a little bit and how I got through it. Again, I will just perhaps want to, is it worth this thing? Yeah, anyway, I'll just throw in there, just explain a little bit this thing about body dehydration. I'll give you an idea. There are several things. I have other videos describing this, but one of the things that happens to me lately is I have to keep drinking water. When I lay in bed, when I, especially towards the last hour or two or sleep, especially in the morning before basically the time to wake up, I get quite oftentimes these days very painful muscular cramps, especially in the lower legs below the knee. So from the knee down all the way to the tip of the toes, basically really powerful and strong contractions, involuntary, of the muscles. I can tell you that the muscles get so stiff, just like a wooden piece. So it's not your regular cramps. It's really painful, and this is due, I think, in part from body dehydration. But let's just skip now to the severe constipation. So I had this episode, and the way I did notice, just one of the things is that constipation, people sometimes think it's a matter of how often you go to the toilet. I mean, how rare you start going. But it's not just that. For instance, you may go more often to the toilet, and that would be the lower part of the intestine is still working properly, but the upper part of the intestine, because maybe you ate something, or because in the last days you have severe dehydration of the body, the upper part of the intestine may already be starting to move the food too slow and maybe even get stuck. So I'm just saying this, that the fact that the frequency of going to the toilet doesn't tell the whole story of what's going on your upper segment of intestine, because the intestine is really long. I don't know how many thousands of feet long, but it's really long. Just Google up to find out the correct length if you want. All this to say that you never know what is the actual situation in the upper half, let's say upper segment of intestine. So I had quite regular going to the stool, but my upper intestine, because I had a severe episode of dehydration which lasted for basically 2 months, my upper part of the intestine got very constipated, and at some point even stuck, completely stuck. And how did I know this? So basically you don't really know this kind of severe constipation it's going on until, how to say, you don't know it right away when it really happens. It may be a delay. Again, let me just repeat this again. Maybe the upper part of intestine got very stuck, if you want, the food in there, but you can still go to the toilet because the lower part is still working fine for a few weeks, still going pretty frequent, and you will have an upper constipation, upper intestine constipation, which can be dangerous and also could cause other problems such as weight loss. So I had 2 months of very strong body dehydration. I explained this in another video what happened, and only after, so these 2 months, I think during these 2 months the intestine started to get very stuck, very constipated. I didn't realize after 2 months what happens is that I started having some sort of a very strong burping, just like really a lot of gas from my stomach would just I would just burp it through the mouth. It didn't smell or anything bad, but it just was really like deep burp, something like really deep, completely unusual and very frequent through the day. I didn't understand what was going on at that point, and this lasted for about 2 weeks. But this period signaled actually that there was a complete blockage, perhaps in the upper segment of intestine. I didn't know about that. I didn't understand what was going on until after about these 2 weeks. There's been 2 or 3 weeks of this burping, and then that stock actually was not completely stuck. It's hard to say really what's the situation, if you want, in the intestine. I think the upper intestine was stuck, but also part of that really severe constipation started to arrive through the end of intestine to the rectum. So when I went to the toilet after about 2-3 weeks of burping like this, but again this blockage started, I believe, at least 2 months ago from that moment with the severe dehydration episode. So when I went first time at the bathroom with the beginning of this severe constipation, that's when I had for the first time for me, a really compacted stool, a really compacted. And this is what I also call severe or critical constipation. I say severe because the stool, it's really compacted. It can travel more or less fast. So the frequency of the toilet, it depends. It may be slower or not so slow, but it's really the thickness of the stool, or the compactness of the stool, and a potential blockage. And by the way, potential blockage, it's better to go to an emergency room. Maybe you may try something, which I'll explain in a moment, but keep in mind that it's important to go to the emergency room if nothing works, because you just cannot keep eating, drinking if you have a blockage in the intestine at some point, right? It's really important. And by the way, when this blockage happened, I remember I was trying to drink water, and I was feeling just like I shouldn't be drinking now. I just felt like it was a full bottle or something like this. I shouldn't be drinking water. That's another symptom of blockage. Anyway, so when I went first at the toilet from this blockage with that very compacted stool, I did not check a watch or something at the time, but I spent at least 30 minutes on the toilet and absolutely no success. Nothing came out. And this is just another tip that I will give. Perhaps you already know, but it's important not to force too much. If you force, if you are whatever, first if it finally passes, the stool finally passes, you will damage your hemorrhoids. You will hurt them, even if you don't have hemorrhoids. And that's really a bad news. Why? Because the next stool you are going to get through, the same with the compacted stool, your hemorrhoids are going to be already hurt. This is just like blood vessels around the anus, right? And these blood vessels just get tears, so not tears, but just break or something like this. That's why it also bleeds. So the next time you are going to have a compacted stool and you have this hemorrhoids painful, I just don't want to imagine what that could mean, right? Keep in mind the drugstore sell, I think, I don't remember exactly, but it's really just like a bag with a hose that you basically put into your rectum just to get water inside your rectum, because water lubricates that stool and helps it slide easier. So keep in mind, you can get this from drugstore. It's not expensive. I remember my stepmother had a surgery, and after the surgery she was very constipated and she had to use that thing. So anyway, those 30 minutes when I was on the toilet with absolutely zero success, it was very frustrating. And I think it's important not to get frustrated. And it's not easy, because basically you need to have patience. And in that context, it's not something natural to have patience, to be patient, but it's really, I think, what helps the most. The second part is that I believe, I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that after a while the rectum muscles start to relax and the rectum opening starts to expand a little bit. But that takes time, and in my experience that would take at least 15 to 20 minutes before this expansion starts happening. And it's not like from this to this, like it's just a little bit better. I can tell you that it took me 30 to 40 minutes, and only then it came out, and it was really compacted. Actually, I don't want to give you more details than this, but one of the things that you want to try is just put your hands on your butt. Don't touch your rectum, right? Just put your hands like this and gently stretch your butt, stretch the skin on your butt, and keep it like this. Don't force, really no need to force, just keep it like this while you push. And when you push, never push too hard, really just a medium push. I was saying it's important not to push too hard, because you can tear the hemorrhoids, but also if you force too much, if you are you can also blow blood vessels in your brain, especially if you have some diseases with the blood, with arteries. It puts too much pressure in your blood, and you can have, I'm not sure what the name is for that, but it is dangerous. Just be aware, don't force, and also don't get frustrated, and try that stretch. And with a medium push, sometimes we can squeeze, push, squeeze, push. Squeeze, I mean you squeeze your muscles, rectum muscles with your body, and you also push at the same time. So sometimes this works, but the stool has to be slide easily, which is not doing it because it's very dry and very compacted. So it's all a matter of patience, this thing. And I had this way, I had 3 stools, 3 episodes like this, very difficult. And the 4th time, or even the 3rd time towards the end, the 4th time, it started to pass easier. I think those 3 stools were if you want, the period in time when I was very dehydrated. Those corresponded with the severe body dehydration. One last thing is how I got rid of that blockage. Sorry, my voice is a bit rough now. How I got rid of that blockage, I did look on internet, and personally I don't take fiber supplements such as Metamucil, because most of them contain sugar or aspartame, and my kidneys don't take that well, or my diabetes don't take that well. However, on internet it said don't take fiber supplements when you have a blockage, an intestine blockage. I did take fiber supplements. I'm going to upload a video. I did take one type. It says on the bottle original texture, which is get you thicker when you mix it with water, makes it thicker. And actually I did stir it with water and let it sit 1-2 minutes and add more water. So it became more viscous, the fibers, more thick, but not too thick, just more thick. And I did drink, I would say I did put perhaps 3 tablespoons or something like this in the morning, just once, with plenty or enough water, maybe 300 milliliters of water mixed well. I drank it all at once, and I did so for about maybe 4 or 5 days. And at the end of these 4 or 5 days, I got maybe the 4th stool from that blockage, if you want, and this 4th stool was easier, already much easier compared to the first 3. So I think this fiber did travel through the intestine and did pass the blockage and did help with the rest of the intestine. So did coat the rest of the intestine down to the rectum, if you want. Hopefully that's my understanding. And this is despite what internet says, don't take fiber when you have a blockage. So it's up to you, just maybe give it a try. But if you see that the blockage doesn't go away with that burping, with that kind of feeling of you shouldn't be drinking, you cannot drink water or something like this, then go to the emergency room, take an X-ray, and they will give you some strong purging drinks, and hopefully this will help you. That was my experience. At this point it's fairly fine, although I still struggle with this body dehydration. But right now I keep drinking that fiber once a day. And mind you that original texture fiber supplement has sugar in it. There is a way to maybe not drink the entire glass if you want, just to have the sugar stay at the bottom most of the sugar, and just drink without the sugar, because again I suffer from diabetes, so it's not good for me too much sugar. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate in the comment section. And again, I can tell you, yes, the fact that, yes, I'm glad I did remember this. The first time when I got that blockage and I could not have any luck at the toilet for 30 minutes or more, I have a mental shock, I think. I just felt like this is just, I don't know how to describe it. This is just, a shock. The fact that I realized that what I put in my mouth cannot get out of my body. So that was a shock, but I think you can get over that shock if you have the same reaction, psychological reaction if you want. That was just the first time. Just you can get over it, and just the second difficulty is really accept being patient, accept sitting there on the toilet for 30 minutes or so, maybe take something to read, whatever, tablet or phone, be sure to wash your hands at the end. But it's a matter of patience, and hopefully you get through it. And also try to figure out what is causing constipation. Like I said, I give you hints. Diabetes, problem with kidneys, with specific foods, problem with frequent urination, which dehydrates severely the body, even if you should be keeping drinking water. I keep drinking water, by the way, because of this dehydration every hour, actually more than every hour, maybe even 15-20 minutes, a few sips, about 3 liters to 3 liters of water a day. You should not drink too much water, because that cause Google up water toxicity. You lose too much electrolytes from your body, that can be even deadly. So just search on Google, perhaps drinking too much water and health danger. Inform yourself. Don't drink more than, I would say, 2 or 3 liters a day, but drink regularly if you have body dehydration. Body dehydration, by the way, is not always obvious. One of the ways you can just check your skin or pinch your skin if you see the skin on your behind on the back of your hand doesn't spring back quickly, it stays like this, then this is dehydration. There are other ways like eye sensitivity to strong light, especially at night, teeth pain, gingivitis, gum, I think, gum, tooth pain, that goes away when you drink a glass of water and so on. I'm not getting into this too much, but just try to figure out what is causing that constipation, other than maybe the same reasons as mine, like dehydration, kidney, diabetes, or something else, right? And careful with foods, and try to add foods that help reduce this constipation. Any questions, don't hesitate in the comment section.